Most modern online multiplayer games have something called an end game. This is kind of the term used to refer to the late stages of a game where a player will encounter new progression systems or possibly new ways to play. In Marvel Snap's case, this is commonly believed to be at the end of Series 3, when you're done collecting the beginner levels of cards and making your way into Series 4 and Series 5. Getting cards from chests is then replaced by getting cards and earning collector's tokens more sporadically and using those tokens to buy cards. And today, that's what we want to take a look at. This is a lovely article written by Kiralis here at Marvel Snap Zone that contains some incredible data with some math done behind it to back it up, to look at how effectively you can use your collector's tokens to buy cards, how quickly players will get collector's tokens, and other in-game currencies after completing Series 3. There's a lot of interesting calculations in this one and a lot of factual data, so buckle up and stay tuned. Plenty coming up in this one. If you enjoy this type of video, you got to let me know. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Marvel Snap Zone for more daily content so you aren't missing out on anything important as Snap continues to thrive. So, starting things off, we have a couple of assumptions we've made when doing the math here to make sure that we get a figure that makes sense for the majority of players. But it's important to clarify exactly what those calculations and conditions are. For these numbers to be accurate, we're assuming you are currently Series 3 complete. You complete every quest to get all of your seasonal track rewards and reach at least rank 90 during every season. When reaching other lower ranks, the rewards for this will not be as generous, so the numbers will be slightly different. It's also assumed that any player using these numbers is not spending any of their gold on cosmetics or farming experience to gain more season caches than they would do otherwise. Last but not least, we're not spending any real money to speed up progress here when we take these numbers into account. So let's look at these conversion ratios. With a standard conversion of gold into credits through the in-game store or by refreshing your missions, a player will receive 0.3 collector's tokens for every gold they spend. As noted in our previous analysis of upcoming bundles, the best ones offer 0.7 collector's token per gold spent. Such a big difference only confirms the need for us to save our gold for bundles for those who may want to have as many cards as possible. The difference in strategy between a regular player and one that saves the gold for bundles is pretty evident, just taking a look at those numbers. 1 credit can be equated to 0.24 collector's tokens if the player will convert all the gold they receive in caches into credits, thus moving the collection level up as efficiently as possible. If a player chooses to save that gold instead, then 1 credit will be equal to 0.23 collector's tokens as a result. So 1 collector's token is worth 3.33 gold, or 4.16 credits, if you need to convert credits as efficiently as possible without remaining gold in the process. There's always a lot of confusion about collector's reserves in a similar vein. When calculating the average number of collector's tokens you'll get from a collector's reserve, it is taken into account that after obtaining a full Series 3 collection, 1 in 40 of these reserves will contain a Pull 4 card, and 1 in 400 of these reserves will contain a Pull 5 card. Thus, the average number of collector's tokens from a collector's reserve will not be equal to 125, as it may seem at first glance, but instead is closer to 114. If a player spends all the resources accumulated during the season without buying any bundles and uses the standard method of converting gold into credits mentioned beforehand, you'll get that at a rate of 1.25, and that means you'll open 65 collector's reserves during every single season. It's worth noting though, the real price of 1 collector's reserve is equal to about 475 credits, because some of those credits and gold will be returned to you in the form of cashback when opening collector's reserves. But if you do save that gold and don't convert it over, then a collector's reserve will be worth about 497.5 credits instead. Is the season pass worth your money every month? Well, if you buy a season pass for $10, you can convert all of the resources you receive in it through credits and gold into 767 collector's tokens for just the paid part of the season pass at the standard conversion rate of 1 gold to 0.3 collector's tokens. Thus, knowing that $10 equals 700 gold, the reason for making this particular offer from the store is explained in another article that I'll link for you in the description box down below, we get an incredible conversion rate of gold to collector's tokens of 1.1 from our season pass. That makes a season pass 54% more valuable than even the most profitable bundles in terms of collector's tokens per dollars spent, even when taking into account the card value and all of the cosmetics. If you want a graph for that information, here's one on screen for you now that breaks it down in comparison to some of the more recent bundles we've seen in Marvel Snap alongside the maths for a season pass. Such values let us know that it's extremely important to wait for bundles containing collector's tokens because getting it by exchanging gold for credits is really inefficient. So the advice is, don't spend your gold on variants and don't convert it directly into credits if you want more collector's tokens and cards in the long run. So how many credits can you rack up in a season? Well, the good news is the developers have accurately calculated the amount of experience players receive. An active player does not need to worry about whether or not they will reach level 50 by the end of the month for the season pass, since even without taking into account any experience from games, you should get to level 50 by completing your quests. Also, here's an interesting fact. During a month, a free-to-play player will receive approximately 24,400 credits from all of their sources, and that does not include bundles or gifts from developers dedicated to holidays. So what is the total amount of in-game currency a player can receive during a season? This chart on screen is quite complicated, so let me break it down for you. We have our 3 different ratios depending on which bundles you are choosing to prioritize and how you are choosing to use your golden credits to show you the eventual outcome of every single one of those decisions. As you can see here, if you're saving up for bundles that contain tokens, then each season you will get up to 9,247 collector's tokens if you do not buy the season pass. You can then get up to 10,014 collector's tokens if you do buy the season pass. That is a large enough amount to buy 1 card from Series 5 and also 1 card from Series 4. However, if you don't save up for bundles and you choose to turn any gold you get into collector's tokens by buying credits at the standard rate, instead, you'll only be able to afford 1 Series 5 card every month. It's worth noting this means that 900 gold is the most valuable resource you can get from the season pass, in addition to the featured card, of course. This amount of gold is equivalent to at least 698 collector's tokens when you spend that gold on any bundle that contains them with a ratio of 0.7. Alternatively, if you spend that gold on a brand new Token Tuesday bundle with a ratio of 0.9, it can be worth up to 1,578 collector's tokens all by itself. You're going to have gold left over even if you buy all of the Token Tuesday bundles. Because of this, the real number of collector's tokens that you can receive during a season is going to range somewhere between 9,247 and 10,289 if you don't buy a season pass. The exact number is going to greatly depend on the amount of available bundles for any particular season and whether we see Token Tuesday bundles again in the future or whether they are only a temporary experiment. As a result of all these incredible calculations, we have a lot to think about. I think everyone's going to draw their own conclusions based on the data carried out here, but I would like to read your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about these type of numbers. I imagine the question we're going to get the most is 9,000 collector's tokens enough for the average player? If we take into account the developers created collector's tokens not so players would receive every card, but so they could prioritize some cards, then the current system is close to being good. However, it definitely needs a number of changes that will help increase the number of collector's tokens that an average player can receive per season. The easiest way to achieve this is by making bundles even more profitable. So during the season, the maximum number of collector's tokens a player receives will be at least 12,000. That way, if you're missing 3,000 collector's tokens, you can maybe even give those in another way, for high ranks or completing challenges. But developers should also make sure that even a passive player can afford at least one card from Series 5 every month without having to chase every resource in the game to do so. I think these changes would allow Second Dinner to achieve a optimal economic balance in the Marvel Snap Endgame period and would not allow for players to be too frustrated about the number of collector's tokens they're receiving every month, especially when you consider the release of weekly new cards, each of which costs an impressive 6,000 collector's tokens. This one's been a super different video for us at Marvel Snap Zone, and I wanted to make sure this data was as readily available as possible in both article form and video form to all of our fans and users. So if nothing in the video has been particularly clear, I do apologise, but the full article is linked for you down below in the description, so you can go and check it out and have that resource on hand whenever you might want to double check any of the numbers displayed. But until next time, I have been HowlingMines. You've been amazing. This has been Marvel Snap Zone. Take care of yourself. Have a good one.